Do you think that Dr. Fauci intentionally lied under oath to Senator Paul when he vehemently denied NIH's funding of gain-of-function research?
I think there's no doubt that NIH was funding gain-of-function research.
Is it likely that American tax dollars funded the gain-of-function research that created this virus?
I think it did, not only from NIH, but from the State Department, USAID, and from DOD.
Well, Redfield testified that early on he believed the virus had been engineered, and he was excluded from later calls because he took that position. He went on to talk about this paper that it appears was generated, and while he couldn't speak to Dr. Fauci's motivations for prompting this study, he said that it does appear, that this study was intended to translate and prevent and circumvent the idea that COVID was originated in a lab, that it was a man-made virus.
If you really want to be truthful, it's antithetical to science. This was a narrative that was decided that they were going to say this came from the wet market, and they were going to do everything they could to support it, to negate any discussion about the possibility that this came from a lab.
Now, Dr. Fauci repeatedly denied that the National Institute of Health had funded gain-of-function research in 2021.
You didn't give money to the Wuhan lab to do gain-of-function research.
That is correct.
Dr. Fauci, knowing that it is a crime to lie to Congress, do you wish to retract your statement of May 11th where you claimed that the NIH never funded gain-of-function research in Wuhan?
Senator Paul, I have never lied before the Congress.
You gave them money and you said, don't do gain-of-function research.
Correct.
And they said, we won't.
Correct.
How you can say that is not gain-of-function?
It is not.
It's a dance, and you're dancing around this because you're trying to obscure responsibility for 4 million people dying around the world from a pandemic.
And Senator Paul, you do not know what you are talking about, quite frankly. And I want to say that officially. You do not know what you are talking about.
Now, this all comes as revelations seem to indicate that in February of 2020, Dr. Fauci prompted a study that was intended to show that the virus did not come from a lab. And that has raised a lot of outrage. Republicans are calling for Dr. Fauci to be put behind bars. And this comes as a wave of demonization of China from U.S. officials and U.S. media, blaming China for the pandemic. Now, China has pushed back and said the United States shouldn't be turning serious public health issues into political weapons.
A new report tonight on the origins of COVID-19, the U.S. Energy Department now differing from some other government agencies.
The head of the FBI in the United States has said the coronavirus pandemic is most likely to have emerged from a Chinese laboratory.
Created deliberately for research, but leaked unintentionally into the world.
China, predictably, is furious and pushing back.
The lack of cooperation from China has made it difficult to pinpoint the exact cause of the pandemic.
A lab leak is extremely unlikely. This is an authoritative scientific conclusion that experts from China and the World Health Organization reached after visiting the relevant laboratory in Wuhan and holding in-depth exchanges with relevant researchers. The relevant party should stop playing up the lab leak theory, stop smearing China, and stop politicizing the issue of origin tracing.
Now, at this point, these new revelations about the National Institute of Health and Dr. Fauci and his statements and the studies that were commissioned all seem to indicate that U.S. officials have something to hide. They're trying to point the finger at China, but it looks like some of their own behavior has serious questions that could be raised.